Okay, so now we're going to be looking at Lab 3, which is the integumentary system, and you're looking at a model of the skin. Now, you notice it's a lot thicker here. This represents the top layer of the skin, which is the epidermis, in an area where you have thick skin, like the bottom of your foot, the sole of your foot, or the palm of your hand. This, where it's not so thick looking, that's the rest of your skin. The epidermis of the rest of your skin, like on your scalp or your chest or your arm. That's what you'd see. But the epidermis is this wavy line here all the way to the top. And the bottom region of the epidermis is called the stratum basal, and this is the wavy line that you see right here. It is got cells in it that are getting nourishment from these blood vessels under here, and so they are alive. It's getting oxygen, so they're dividing by mitosis, and each cell makes two, and they get pushed up, and they get pushed up into what's called the stratum spinosum region, where they get coated in keratin, which will waterproof your skin, and they get pushed up, and when they get pushed up around this area, they start to die, and they get flatter like squamous cells, and they get coated more in that keratin, and they're far enough from the blood supply that they're not getting oxygen and nutrition, so they start to die up in the stratum granulosum. And then if it's thick skin, you've got 2 or 3 layers that make up what's called the stratum lucidum, and you don't see that over here where you have thinner skin. And then the top region is called the stratum corneum. And you see it's not nearly as many layers over here as it is like on the bottom of your foot. But that stratum corneum, the cells are squamous, that stratified squamous tissue. They're flat, they're dead. And so all of those regions, stratum basal, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum, that makes the top layer of the skin, which is the epidermis. Now, the dermis is everything beneath that until you get to this yellow down here. So all of this is dermis, and in the dermis you're going to see hair follicles, sweat glands, sebaceous glands, muscles, blood vessels, nerves, okay? And you've got this dermal papilla up here. Now the papilla is a nipple, and it's dermal because it's in the skin. And those dermal papilla fit up into these indentions of the stratum basal. And they have blood vessels and things in them. They also have these structures that are called tactile corpuscles to detect a light touch. And then deeper down here, you're going to see the lamellated corpuscles for detecting a lot of vibration and deep pressure. Now, the other things you find in the dermis, you would find sebaceous glands associated with your hair follicles. They empty the sebum or oil into the hair follicle, and that's why our skin and our hair gets oily. You also find associated with the hair follicles erector pili muscles or pili muscles. They are smooth muscles that when they contract involuntarily, they cause chill bumps. And they also make your hair stand on end because they're associated with the hair follicle. Now the hair bulb is the bottom, how it swells out a little bit of the hair follicle. The hair follicle is nourished, see the blood supply here, and it's nourished by those blood vessels, so it's alive. Cells are getting oxygen and nourishment, so they're alive, and they divide and make two and get pushed up, and they get far enough from this blood supply that they die, so the cells in the hair shaft have been dead a long time. That's why it doesn't hurt us to get a haircut. You also will see these structures here. Those are eccrine sweat glands, and the sweat that they make, they secrete through a duct that leads to a pore on the surface of the skin. Now, everything below the dermis where this yellow is hypodermis. That means under the skin. It's also called subcutaneous layer. It's full of adipose tissue. That's what all the yellow is, which is just plain old fat. And of course, you see lots of blood vessels and things in there as well.